Yeah, lots of things going in my background. So, hello, everybody. We are live. Welcome to Conversations with the Oracle for the month of March. I have a new guest, Ricardo, also known as Lavender Freddie. I'm assuming that's how you like to have it pronounced.
Yes. We're being fancy. Yes.
Yes, Lavender Freddie.
Love it.
Apologies for the loudness in the background because y'all know I live in the hood. Like all the kids and everything are always around, and like there's a family next door to me that has two kids that are I believe under 4. So they're at that stage between like 2 and 3 of like no doesn't exist, it's just screaming when they don't get what they want. So that's that's the stage we're at in the development of humanity.
I understand.
So yeah, it's like there's never a my biological clock stays not going off because I just keep getting reminded that this is just not for me parenting. So
You got this. You totally got this. It's
I
real.
mean, I parent adults.
Okay.
I
Okay.
parent adults. All
Okay.
right.
I see. I like that.
So, give us a quick blurb about you, because I don't assume that the folks that follow me necessarily follow you. And part of these conversations is to expose people to the amazing folks that are in my sphere. So yeah, let's give us a little just like elevator snapshot if you can.
What's interesting is that I'm now in the process of working on my artist statement, my artist bio, basically redefining my career and my position in this whole experience. So instead of throwing out all of the intense work that I've done to make myself sound good on paper, I will just say I am an interdisciplinary sound artist, conceptual sound artist. That's important on paper. Um, so I would really say my art is about listening, about re-listening. I have a very intimate relationship with sound and place and narratives, specifically historical narratives, and in trying to listen to the evolution of soundscapes within site specific areas. Um, and also playing with, as an artist, you manipulate the medium that you work with, or you're manipulated by it. And I would say, yeah, when it comes to manipulating sound for sound installations, or if I'm working on an album, or if I'm venturing into sound healing or radio transmission art, sound is just my language that I choose to navigate throughout this world. Yeah, excuse me. And God is silence to me. So one day I will experience that divine silence.
Well, so I am also an interdisciplinary artist as well. My background is actually in music, playing the viola.
Okay. Okay.
So I'm definitely picking up what you're putting down with that.
Yes.
Um, so two things. First,
Go
you
for it.
mentioned listening.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What do you hear when you listen to me?
In this moment, or in
In
throughout the
general.
moments that I've experienced. Um, the times that I have heard your sound in my space, or invited your sound into my space. There's an intentionality in your tone. There is a thoughtfulness and a care for language, uh, as far as the language you will use to represent your experience. So that consideration informs me that if I were to be in conversation with you, that's something that we will hold space for, the patience of communication. Um, and of course, you have the language and the insight of, I'm going to say, astrology. Um, and that in itself is deep, 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 deep. And I assume that you have been in that, you have explored that language, incorporated that language, been in that school of thought uh, for some time now, because the way that you utilize it, it's very easy. It's not performative. It has become a part of your sound. So it is your language. You know. So those are the things that I hear so far.
Thank you. I love that.
Yeah.
That might be an interesting mini art project, is painting, so to speak, portraits of people based off of what you pick up and what you hear when you listen to them.
Oh, wow. Absolutely. Absolutely. Just completely removing the visual aspect and allowing yourself to interact with paint and a canvas. Is that what we're speaking about? The traditional
a sound portrait of people.
Oh,
yes. Visual portrait.
Yes. I'm very much into, like, I've had some ideas of doing bodyscapes, and I have stethoscope microphones. So when I place them on my body or someone else's body, you hear the internal goings on, and sometimes I can create. I look at the body as a geography, and it will be very interesting to collage those sounds and kind of create a composition. I think that would be a very interesting art project, or even a service to provide to someone, like just like an ultrasound creates, pictures with sound. You can create this sort of sonic mapping of someone's body. That would be very interesting.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, make that a service. I'm more than happy to pay you money.
Have all the electrodes and stethoscopes everywhere. Like, oh, yes. Wow, you have a nice soundtrack.
Yeah. Because I mean, like, high key on a smaller scale, that's really what happens when we're doing photos of the aura.
Okay.
You're picking up the electromagnetic field, but yes. With you would just be like converting the field, which for them, for in that context, it's represented by color, but color is sound.
Now you're talking about something.
So, like, you can convert
esoteric and mystical. Yes, color is sound. Sound is
color. It's what's so funny is, like, it's all the same thing.
Yes.
We just give different language depending on how we are interacting with it and perceiving it.
Absolutely. I would
like agree. Religion and God.
Yes. What I usually say is superficiality is very deep. And it all depends on the person that is confronting what they call superficial. And if you have the will to dig deeper, and once you start to dig deeper, you realize, just like you said, it's all the same thing, but we have created, I guess, different languages of depth. like, oh, okay, they're using that term that goes a little bit deeper with the relationship that they have with the what we're considering superficial. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so
Yeah, that gets into, that's reminding me of, I forgot who I was having a conversation with at this point. But the difference between form and function. It was Quincy. I know, because we were getting into all the things. So, it was the form versus function thing. So it was like God as function, but we're engaging with the different forms, and the forms inform, or the forms are derivatives of the function, or the forms are derivatives of the archetype.
See, that's you and Quincy.
Yeah. But getting back to you.
But I get that. I think I'm getting, you're speaking about different forms, but the function is the same. The function, there is a unification in that function. But the fragmentation, the sort of unique experiences come in different forms of that oneness.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think
yeah, like the full electromagnetic spectrum.
Woo!
Like it's electromagnetism as function.
Yes.
But we have X-rays, we have gamma rays, we have visible light, we have microwaves, we have radio, like
absolutely.
And they all do different things, but they are pointing to their parent.
The sun.
So that's a great segue then to what you said about God being in the silence.
Yes.
And as a musician, the music, the sound can only exist because of the silence. So I propose that you're always listening to God.
I like that constant communion. I do like that. Yeah. Yes. I'm feeling that.
Yeah.
Yes.
What are you hearing when you listen to this is going to be a big question. So what are you hearing when you listen to the cacophony of the world right now?
Cacophony of the world right now. I have said this in many conversations, and it has become my mantra. The listener is always the composer. So no matter what is being expressed, audibly, sonically, like right now, I have been given the sense of being able to hear. Not everyone in this world or in this form has that ability. And I'm not talking about like my unique listening. I'm talking about biology. There is the experience of deafness. So what I want to, when I think about the listener, the listener is always the composer. I think about the selectivity of our listening. People could be, I'm not going to hide in the people. I am listening to, and this is not true, but this is, I am attempting to listen to Ukraine. That's one of the things I'm giving my attention to. I'm lending my ear towards. But how am I able to get my ear into that space? By entrusting the media in certain networks to deliver content that is as close to the reality as possible. So in that selectivity, I understand there's propaganda involved in all conflicts. So I have to filter out you know, language, because propaganda is very easy to detect. Nationalism, jingoism, all of those things are very easily detectable. Um, but as far as the cacophony of the what's going on right now, I'm listening to, let's call it politics, geopolitics. I'm listening to the conversations that this conflict is inspiring in my local environment amongst just everyday people. Um, I'm hearing if you can hear fear in people's words, I'm hearing that. I'm hearing like also like this kind of, I don't want to call it hatred, but it is this sort of, it's yeah, it's kind of like a hatred, you know. Um, because the information that's coming through and that we're listening to that's informing us is creating our opinion of a person. So therefore our response becomes, let's hang this bastard, or let's, you know what I'm saying. That type of language starts to come up, but it's still very marginalized from the reality. You're not going to be the executioner. You're not going to pull the trigger. It's a very lofty thing to say, but these are the things being spoken through the mouths of human beings right now. And that's adding to this cacophony, this symphony. And then my own research for my own peace of mind, listening to Krishnamurti, you know, or um, delving into a little. I spent a little time with Alan Watts' sound last night. You know, so there's things that I seek out for myself. You know, that contribute to like everything that I'm listening to. But I think the selectivity and the listener being the composer through that selectivity of how the world sounds to you today. Because there's also conflicts I'm listening to happening in Africa that are not being amplified right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
So easily forgotten.
Yes.
Mm.
So I'm like, oh, this is what they want me to listen to right now. There's thought behind that. You know, when you broadcast certain things, when you amplify certain conflicts, when Saturday Night Live, you know, puts it at the forefront of their presentation, then you already know that your media has already chosen a side, and now you have to listen accordingly, without thought, without doing the research of how conflicts, you know, come about. But I'm not that person. So once I start to delve in, I'm like, oh shit. The listening experience becomes a little bit more complex.
Mm. Mm. I love that, the listener as a composer. So, you know, that makes me start to think about, you know, um, what we are choosing to compose, because I think I like this frame because it takes us beyond. Interesting. It takes us beyond a place of neutrality, which is choosing what to listen to,
Mm-hmm.
which is an important place and an empowered place to be in, because when you don't know you actually have choice, it is a disempowered place to be. So,
Yeah.
but from there, then moving to a benefic orientation,
Okay.
a
Mm.
hope based one that says, I'm going to choose how I compose my listening to inform how I perceive the world and how I act.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in spite of, but also in deference to
Yeah.
my walk and also what I see happening in the world.
Yeah. Um, that choosing of, of of what you are listening to can create depression. You know,
Mm.
can create blocks. Can create paralysis and mobility. You know, you just no longer want to take part in something that is the the conflict and the noise of conflict and hatred is always being amplified, and you forget about the moments, all of the beauty and all of the love and all of the peace and all of the wellness that is still in this world, you know, because you're just being bombarded with this noise that is, for me, pressing. Like, I can only stay in a room so long until I start to feel like, oh, my, I'm feeling low, which we would call a lower frequency. Um, you know, you're starting to like really believe these narratives, and it's not about truth or falsehood. It's about how it starts to seep into your dream space. It becomes a part of your ideology, your perception, your beingness, and that you can gain weight through that information, you know. Yeah, so the choosing is important. The choosing is important.
Mm. Interesting. So the the topic for today was father, and I put hood in
Yeah,
parentheses.
I like that. I like that. Why did you do that though?
It was an inspired thing. There wasn't thought behind it, which is why it was inspired, because it was from soul, it wasn't from mind.
Hmm.
Um, so that can also get into the discussion that we touched on about form and function. So function being father as archetype, and what does that mean?
Hmm.
Um, and then fatherhood as the form,
Hmm.
right? Um, and then there's also the benefic and malefic interpretation of the beneficial form that father can show up as in our human relationships versus the uh, malefic version, the fatherhood, where it's not showing up. No.
Yes, yes. Well,
And yeah, so that was the title, and I was thinking, we could talk about our journey with maybe not necessarily our journey with our fathers, but where we are now with the wisdom of what father means to us.
hmm, hmm.
And then in your case, you can actually go further because you are
I am a
technically
father.
a father, which is also a choice to compose in a
Mhm.
certain kind of way, right? And I find that fascinating because I mean, part of that question that I want to ask is like, what are you choosing to compose by being a father?
Um, when I saw the way that you delivered the word, I felt that it was in alignment with my focus. Like, it's the hood. I'm in the hood. like what's fatherhood? It's the hood. Okay. But thinking about that suffix, you know, it's like, what does it actually mean? You know, and we could get into the etymology or Google real quick, but just off the top of the dome, it's like you have neighborhood, you have parenthood, you have childhood, you have motherhood, you have fatherhood. So that suffix gives off a sense of place, of arriving in a place. And with the topic of discussion being fatherhood, I wanted to speak about what is this space? What is this hood that began 26 years ago for me, and continued, 13 years later, and then again, I have 3 worlds that I have um, participated in the procreation and co-creation of their lives, and in this space that we call fatherhood, it's like there's a schooling going on here. It's a new school, and it's a lifelong school.
Yeah.
Depending. And what's very interesting about it, the function, is that the father doesn't always have to show up for the function. It's the function is, in my experience, throughout my experience, it's like many faces have shown up to function in the name of love, care, guidance, provision, nurturing, reprimanding, you know what I'm saying? And these are all the things that, in that school of fatherhood, in that space of fatherhood, you're going to experience. But I also don't want to just like regulate it to the point where it only happens from that one person. That you know what I'm saying? That one form.
Yeah, I mean, that wouldn't be African.
Right. And yeah, it's interesting to think about it that way, because I live in a society, especially being a Black man, and all of the various tropes that come with, fatherhood and Blackness and the absent father. And I don't want to reiterate those things, because I want to focus on the essence of the hood. Like, what happens in that hood? What happens in that space where I'm just walking down the street one day, and a stranger, comes up to me and and asks me for some change or something like that, and I'm engaged, I'm interested, because I've always been interested in the person that fed the pigeons or spoke to the pigeons. And I have a couple of dollars in my pocket, and they have significant age on me. I can see the history carved into their face, the experience in their eyes, and they take the damn money, but they say something, like, I don't know, don't get lost in the blues today. You know what I mean? That's a moment. Like, look at this blue sky, brother, little young blood. Don't get lost in the blues today. Like, that poetry and those moments, when you realize you're on a spiritual journey, that these father figures pop up, these mothering figures pop up throughout the experience. And yes, I can claim my kids, but after reading Khalil Gibran, it's just like, your kids are not your kids. They come through you. Don't give them your thoughts, but offer them your love. You experience life enough to seek out the wise voices of experience. dynamics, that tame your ignorance or your arrogance, and that sort of my stuff, my kids, and we beat ourselves up for it sometimes, like that. It's just like I could sit here and spend a whole hour on my shortcomings as a father or in this school of fatherhood, but I could also spend as many hours really pointing out the moments of Thanksgiving and victory and things of that nature. So it's a very it's a very alive space to be in, and the relationship you have with these worlds that are blooming and becoming their own, taking their own sort of trajectory throughout the universe, throughout this space, and yes, finding that balance between discipline for their protection and freedom for their creativity. It's a very interesting thing to be involved in, and yeah, there are certain people that are not built for that, to be that figure, and sometimes them pretending that they are worsens the situation. So it was best that they did remove themselves from that place. Um, we have a system that allows us to weaponize our families and really look at it in a certain way that I'm that I'm listening to. The weaponization of like family court, or the weaponization of mother and father, and not being creative enough to figure out a new dynamic of seeing each other and listening into each other. Like we always have to bring in somebody that really doesn't give a shit about the family, and that's something that anyway, I'm on a tangent. So that's a trap. Let's beware of that little thing.
I mean, it's a conversation, so there should be tangents. Yeah, so I had to like run and look real quick at the etymology for hoods, and it's basically hat. And so, but that struck me because it does bring this connotation of covering.
Yes. Covering, enveloping, becoming this sort of shelter. Yeah.
Protective essence,
Yeah.
which is interesting to think about in terms of childhood as well too.
Mm-hmm.
That these hoods,
these hoods
are basically neighborhoods or whatever. They can be seen as mantles,
okay,
but also as signifier of stages. Absolutely. Or again of forms, because those who are playing the role of fatherhood or carrying that mantle also carried at some point the mantle of childhood.
Yes.
Right. Yes. And depending on the circumstances, they might be playing the role of motherhood and fatherhood. Right. Yeah, it's fascinating.
Where you're going with that makes me think of passages and rites of passages, and the childhood. I have a daughter that's about to enter into the teenage years. She'll be 13 next week. So it's these passages, and then you're into the adulthood, and it would be amazing if we considered them as such, as the way that we consider graduating, and going through grade school, and the progress and the evolution of our experience. If we looked at, and there are certain people in this world that have cultures that honor those passages into, womanhood or into manhood, but I'm talking about like sweat lodges, being with, people, honoring the blood, honoring the tears. We have to like humanize ourselves again, and come back to more indigenous practices, which what I mean by indigenous is connected to the experience of life, connected to the ground, connected to the stones, connected to the, all of it, the navigation through the, using the stars to navigate into tomorrow. So it's like, wouldn't that be amazing?
I mean, that's astrology, navigating the stars
Right.
to chart the course for tomorrow, literally.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And also, like, what does the stars say about fatherhood? Entering into that space. You know what I mean? Like, if we would
So you know who the father is, right?
break it down.
It's well, it can go between two things. So in terms of the planets, it's going to be the sun,
Yes.
and then the moon is mother. And then in terms of the zodiac archetypes, I would say it'd be Cancer for the mother, and then Capricorn for the father.
Okay. Wow. I'm Capricorn.
And I'm a Cancer. Hey.
Hey!
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Can the mother become son?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And can the father tap into moon or become moon? Okay. Okay. So what are the attributes that signify these celestial orbs, these
Well, for tropical astrology, it's going to be, um, I would say, more Greco-Roman, European,
sure.
binaries for gender.
Yes.
Whereas like other, not all, but other cultures, there's going to be more pliability there. So for me, um, as an African in America, son is parent, not father,
Yes.
because it is progenitor
Okay.
of all. Um, and moon isn't mother, it's muse.
I like that. I like that.
So with all that the progenitor that the son, the parent provides, depending on our orientation and our moon energy will basically show us how to ride the wave and how to compose out of the ocean of possibilities that are there from the parent, right?
All right. All right.
So it's a, like the moon is for us, it's a regulator.
Yes.
It keeps the cycles, it keeps the timing, because the sun has no time.
Yes.
I don't think people understand that.
Ah,
The sun doesn't have time. We have time, but the sun is the center. It's not. Well, that's not actually fully true, because it is moving. It's just moving around its parent, which is the great central sun. But that's a different thing. From our perspective, though.
yes. The sun doth not rise. It is you who
Yes.
riseth. Yes.
Yes.
For sure.
So we are Osiris and we are Isis, right? And that's that dance. But yeah, that's how I view it. Not out of that, and not to knock
Sure.
the other, but it's out of respect for the parents of those forms which are taken.
Yeah.
There's a bigger function than just the form that is used in the mass market or the industry.
Yes.
Right.
Awesome.
So yeah, parent as sun, moon as muse.
Timeless sun.
And the sun is timeless.
Yes, yes, yes. When you mentioned fatherhood being the subject, the topic of discussion, yeah, I hit you back immediately. Like, this is sensitive, and and even throughout, like, leading up to our conversation, I've been kind of like preparing, like, what do I talk about? Like, how do I approach this? And and then I'm also like, well, I'm speaking to the Oracle, like the Oracle can help you out, bro. If you have anything right now that about fatherhood that you want to present, like, put it out there on the table. You're speaking to the Oracle. So yes, there has been a process leading up to this magical and magnificent moment, uh, utilizing the electromagnetic spectrum to be in each other's space, right? And I just want to say I truly appreciate you just creating, like, receiving the dream and manifesting the dream to create this idea of these interactions with people that that you resonate with, or you know you have seen come into view and you've noticed their light. So I really appreciate this invitation to. We got a couple more conversations to do as well.
Yeah.
But I wanted to say that before. I'm like, I gotta go because I gotta go pick up my. But right now we're cool. We're cool.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we'll just stay on for a few minutes because we're at least coming up to the hour, so I'm respecting my time with that.
Yes.
So, okay, so since you brought that up about it being sensitive, what things were you working through that I guess you resolved, or are there still things that you're working through that you're like,
Yeah.
what do you have for the Oracle?
Right. Well, I'm thinking out of all of the subject matter that's in the world, like, why would the Oracle say fatherhood? Like, why? Yeah. And the listener is the composer. So, uh, in my intensity of asking this question, it reveals a lot about myself, and I'm like, oh, what is being revealed? And what is being revealed is the tropes, that I do not want to perpetuate or revisit. So, and they're not painful, but I'm tired of listening to that, and I'm also like, the new moon is approaching, and it's like, as I move through this time, so many things are being, like, so many passages are opening, so many opportunities are being placed before me, and it's just like, how do you want to show up? Like, I have that choice to either show up and speak on things in a certain light, and I'm very, very proud, of this hood that I'm in. I'm very, very proud of the childhood that I experienced, even if there was a trope thrown in there. You know what I'm saying? There's still so much that has co-created the man that I am today, and I love who I am today. Like, yes, you're all right. You're doing all right. And I think what it spoke to me when I saw you choose fatherhood, it's like, it's now time for you to not confront it, but redefine it for yourself. You know, like instead of, now's the time to pause and think on the way that you're going to move through tomorrow, because this hood is a part of your world now. You know, and yeah, get rid of the things that are not going to service you. Get rid of the things that are not going to heighten that frequency. And that's where I'm at. I think you're mentioning a fatherhood made me go through my meditation, you know, to really this is something that I want to work on redefining for myself, and all of the things that I'm sharing, the father figure, and how there's many faces to these, you know, many forms to this function, you know, of fatherhood. And yeah, I'm not going to cry on when I see the Oracle. I'm not going to cry.
But why though? That would be a redefinition.
That would be a redefinition. That would be a redefinition. But no, it wouldn't be a redefinition. I've cried many times about this. That would be like, it would be, what is it?
The reason I say that, because the question that was popping up is that, you know, thank you for sharing that honest response about this, basically the stuff that came up with that topic. But what I think it speaks to is, you know, a matter of if you feel safe, which is a big.
I think the tears are always the tears from the man that wanted it to be a certain way, but not from the man that sees what it is. And I'm more interested in the man that how he will respond to what is. Sure, you can still have your wants and your desires involved in that experience of living, but there is still so much appreciation and so much poetry in what is, and being present with that, you know. Yeah, something like that. So the tears usually come from the face that wanted it to something else that wasn't. You know what I'm saying? Something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's something that trips a lot of us up, is nostalgia.
Yeah.
Of what could have been.
Yeah.
To the point where we may not recognize that it was never a one and done thing. You know, because life, for us anyway, moves in cycles. So if there's a constant compulsion to look to what was, then you won't see when it comes back around to take advantage of the new opportunity with the wisdom that you've gained.
Yeah. And there's a forgetfulness.
Selective forgetfulness.
Okay.
It's selective, because we like I know I talked about before too, about how we will selectively forget. This I talked about with Dion, I believe. Okay. We'll selectively forget, like, that we know what we're doing, and that we're still here and we're still survived, and that we have skills and we have knowledge, and like we'll just be like, oh, I can't do it. And like, I feel like 2 years ago, you mounted something that was also seemed impossible, and yet.
Right.
So yeah, we forget, but we're also really selective.
Indeed.
In our forgetfulness.
And what I was going to touch upon with that selective forgetfulness is we forget that our parents were also children. You know, we forget that they are still children in the grand scheme of things, you know. And and there's something really liberating about accepting the choices that your parents made, you know, and looking through that lens as though like honoring their experience, you know, even if it had a certain impact on your life, you know, there's something about, you know, just like just look in the mirror. You're going through that right now. You're making choices right now. And if you are a parent or showing up as father mother figures or a father, you know, your children are going to put you through that same sort of, you know, judgment process of judgment. And you know, and they may forget that you were once a child, you know, and that you are still a child. So it's very interesting to get through, to remember that we are all still making decisions today and dealing with those decisions, you know.
Yeah. Well, what I can say as we start to close out is that as a daughter,
Yes.
Good choices for parents for their development and bettering of themselves has a significant impact on a sense of safety that we feel.
Yeah.
Even before the material is taken care of, seeing parent, mother or father, truly care for themselves and act in honor and integrity for themselves and hold boundaries and advocate for themselves, like all of that kind of stuff, you just don't understand the impact that has. So
Right.
as a daughter speaking to you as a father, not my father, but as a father, I'll leave you with these words of encouragement that if you, at those times, not if, at those times when the critique of self comes up, let the standards first be, did I show up in integrity today? Was I loving towards myself today? Did I respect myself today? Because that's what's getting noticed.
Yeah. Right. Right.
That's what's getting noticed.
Yeah. Yes.
And that's what's teaching us how to love.
Yes.
Yeah.
All the way from Cali to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I hear you. I hear that. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough. So thank you for your work. It's some of the greatest service you can do. Because I'm not doing it. So some of the greatest service you can do. At least I'm not planning on it because Spirit got jokes. I'm still having my cycle, so I'm not trying, but I'm just like till I hit menopause, I'm not safe yet. But thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you for your openness and your intimacy in the space. And yeah, thank you to the folks who are joining either live, but also be watching the recording. Please, of course, share, spread the word. The info for Ricardo is in the description for the video below. Check out the Instagram handle that I have there, as well as the website. Check out the work. Definitely check out the Instagram handle because Ricardo did a year-long art project on Instagram, posted every single day. So please peruse that work. That was a paramount effort to do. So definitely check it out. Respect the work. Yeah. And then Do you actually offer any services directly to folks?
No, anything that I have coming up, I will put it in my stories. I definitely have some exhibitions this year,
Okay.
sound installations and things like that. So, but yeah, we have 3 more weeks, so I will be plugging here and there. Like, hey, check this out.
Yeah, no, please do. I mean, because that's also part of the conversation is exposing folks to people who are out here just doing amazing work. Like, it just,
I appreciate
you
you.
know, they're really dope people out here. You should be following them. And also, if they have a way to make money, you should be paying them too.
Right.
So,
Yes. Cheers.
yes,
My turkey cup.
my water. Yes, you're a Trekkie. See, I knew I liked you.
Yes.
I'm not a Star Wars person, so.
Right. We'll talk about that next.
Okay, next week we could do the sci-fi fantasy, talk about tropes.
Ooh.
Like, can we expand, please?
Right.
Yeah, let's talk. Let's talk about some TV shows, movies, and also some books that you might have read recently.
Okay.
That or have some really interesting storytelling that you like. We can definitely riff on that. That would be fun.
Have you been checking out what is it called? Severance on Apple TV?
No.
I sent it to Q, just the trailer. Yeah. It's like Eternal Sunshine meets The Spotless Mind merged with Ex Machina.
I haven't watched. Okay, so they're all in my queue.
Okay.
They're all in my queue, right?
My references. Okay.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to talk about stuff I've definitely watched, but I know that that stuff is actually in my queue. I have just not gotten around to because I've been circling back to anime. So
yeah, you have to put me down with that because just listening to some of your past conversations, I'm like, what is that? You make it sound so interesting. So
if you want something,
give me one.
Yes, the Promise Neverland.
Okay.
I believe
Promise Neverland.
Season 1 is either on Netflix. I think Season 1 is both on Netflix and Hulu, but Season 2 might only be on Hulu. Season 2 is trash. Don't watch it, but watch Season 1. It's basically it's horror, but it's like psychological horror.
Sure.
And it follows these kids who are orphans. Nobody I think is over like the age of 11. So like we're talking children.
Okay.
And it's anime, so like they stay being wild with kids. Like there's no such thing as children for them for some reason. Like they're just adults. Anyway, so it's following these kids who are in an orphanage, and they find out that the orphanage is basically a farm.
Okay.
That basically like
not growing food though.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And so it follows them discovering that and planning escape.
Okay.
And the mind games they have to play because they have to act like they don't know to the adults. Okay. And they're like super smart geniuses, but it's really one of those things where like you have to watch, and it's so intelligent.
Okay.
And it's also just like, what the fuck? And it's good. It's only like, I want to say like 8 or 10 episodes. So it's not like you're going to be there forever. If I remember correctly, it's a short thing. But yeah, but it really does touch on some nice stuff. Season 2, I hated because it went down this, if you decide to watch Season 2, you'll understand. And we can talk about that as well. Because like one of the characters just becomes like this.
You are clearly
white liberal savior character.
You were clearly upset about Season 2.
I mean, everybody was though, because it tonally it was so different, and then like they had this one character just become like the white savior. Like, just like this. Yeah. But Season 1, I can unequivocally, like everyone I told to watch it, like they're just like, yeah, this is good. So.
Okay. All right. Well,
And
thank
it's not because not everybody's into like the action and the tech and all that kind of stuff. So, regardless of what type of genre things you like, it's a pretty straightforward psychological thriller. So
Awesome.
I think you'll enjoy.
Okay.
All right. So that's time.
See you next week.
Yeah, see you next week. Have a beautiful day, and goodbye to everybody. Join us next week as well. Tell your friends.
Bye, everybody.
Subscribe to the channel, please. Help me get to 1,000 subscribers. It'd be great. And yeah, see you soon. Bye.